Wow.
Yes, I do. I've used this all year.
You pack a hell of a lunch. And a lunch.
It's a replica of George Washington's gavel. It's given to me at my inaugural. So it's served me well. Evening, everybody. How was dinner? Well, dinner was courtesy of our executive chef, Susan Delbert, and ably managed by the manager of the Fourth Estate restaurant, Francisco Soto, who's standing there in the back. And as I indicated earlier, before some of you may have missed some of the preliminaries, the Fourth Estate restaurant is the hidden jewel of the National Press Club, because most people think of a private club and say, oh, I can't just walk it in there and have dinner. Well, in this particular part of the club, you can. You can book it on Open Table. So if you would like more food like this, come back every Tuesday through Saturday here, and including Saturday brunch. Club's not open on Sundays, so sorry about that. Unless, of course, you come stampeding in there, and then we'll open it on Sundays. And that would be a good problem. But yes, thank you so much. I wanted to specifically bring the Ambassador Dinner Series kickoff into this restaurant to show it off. And as my predecessor, Myron Belkin, the 107th president, will tell you, he loves this place, and so do I. But I just wanted to wish you all good evening and thank you for coming tonight to the kickoff of the Ambassador Dinner Series. Even though it's almost the end of my term, I said, come heck or high water, we were going to pull this thing off, and we did. And for those of you who do not know who I am, who came in a little late, my name is Jeff Ballou. I'm a news editor for the Americas for Al Jazeera Media Network, their English language channel. I'm the 110th president of the National Press Club. And for about 45 more days, you can put up with me. And then it'll be Andrea Edney's turn of Bloomberg, who is enjoying brand new motherhood with her daughter, Cecilia, born on Sunday night. So, and the pictures are gorgeous. That said, we have a special treat for you, and it's in the line of some of the things we've been trying to do this year. We had a theme called, I've nicknamed a theme this year, I have a club of champions, to bring people together, to do wonderful things, to have a sense of teamwork, to do bold things. And one of the things we did with the international correspondence team, and I've renamed committees teams because committees sound too much like work. So the international correspondence team earlier in the summer hosted some 78 representatives from various countries in a diplomatic reception we had across the hall in the Holman Lounge, and it was a smashing success. And we had a couple people in the room I want to point out to thank for that. One is Antonella Gianto, who's the co-chair of our international correspondence team. Jan Duplain, our rock star, our own ambassador with a great portfolio. You don't do anything in the diplomatic community in this club without going through Jan. Myron Belkin, our 107th president, who was wonderful, gave me lots of wonderful behind-the-scenes counsel. So as you can see, you don't do anything alone in this club, because there's so many people that help pull these things together. And for tonight's program, this was a joint effort of the international correspondence team with Antonella and also with Jackie Kasoya, who's over here tonight. Wave, Jackie. Jackie is co-chair of our events team, so between Antonella Ciancio and Monique McSween and Deanna McCrae James, to collectively coming together, held together with the glue of like I said, people like Jan Duplain, Laura Coker, who manages affairs in the office of the club president upstairs, keeps me in line, and that's hard. And just try to make nights like this success. Tonight's a sellout. Applaud yourselves. Thank you. I must confess that I did institute a tad bit of worry on the beginning of this process, but that's what presidents do. And the teams went off and they rallied the troops and got you all in here. And that's a wonderful tribute to them. There's one other partner I didn't want to leave out, and that is our broadcast podcast team led by my predecessor, Mark Hamrick. So tonight's discussion will become a podcast available on the Press Club website once it's all nice and neatly edited. And we have a wonderful discussion. It's not going to just be us. It's going to include questions from all of you. So I hope you've been thinking about your questions for the ambassador as you've been sort of navigating the red snapper and the ratatouille and the bread pudding. So with that, a couple of quick housekeeping things. I know almost everybody in here has some sort of a smartphone. Please put it on vibrate. I noticed I didn't say turn it off because we know a lot of people like to tweet, and we encourage that a lot. So to tweet tonight's proceedings, you can use the handle at PressClubDC. That's at PressClubDC. My Twitter handle is at NPCPresident. Ambassador, what's yours?
I don't have.
You don't have one? Oh, we're going to have to fix that. And using the hashtag headliners. I think Antonella's going to have you a Twitter handle by the time you get off this stage tonight. A couple other people I want to recognize in the room. I never want to go forward in a program and not recognize those who serve with me on the Board of Governors. Firdaus Al-Farouk, our treasurer, stand up Danny, and we know him as Danny around here. He keeps the money. So about 45 days now, I can confidently say to the membership of the National Press Club, we are very much in the black, and leave my successors with a club in very solid fiscal shape, thanks in part to Danny's efforts. And Laura Coker back there behind the camera, who, as I indicated, keeps me in line. So you don't get to the president's office without going through her. But I'm pretty easy to access. And with that, I think I've gotten all of my committee co-chairs. I don't know, and where's Antonella? I know you waved. I don't know if everybody saw you. So and Jackie and Antonella, could you stand up so everybody could see you? I know waving is one thing, but folks in the back may not have actually seen you. So. You never thank your team members enough. Our wonderful guest tonight is Iraq's ambassador to the United States, Yasseen. And somehow he got from physics to diplomacy. We'll get to that at some point in the discussion. So yes, a Switzerland University trained physicist who did his postdoc at MIT. I teased him during dinner and said, what is it about MIT and producing diplomats of various sorts? But we'll get to that in the Q&A. And he spent some time, because he was in MIT, he spent some time, of course, in Boston, a place I spent the early part of my career. So we were able to trade stories about my time at WCVB there and his time trying to get press coverage for his early days of activism when he was making his transition into the arena of politics and diplomacy. The format will be simple. He and I will exchange some questions and answers. I won't exhaust all of my questions because I'm going to save some for you. Laura is going to run a microphone around. The only thing I ask is this. Please ask questions. Don't make statements. We'll try to get to as many questions as time allows. We have a very strong tradition of civility at the National Press Club for 110 years. So we very much are not big fans of ad hominem attacks and things of that nature. I will firmly and politely cut you off if you go in that direction. With that, I just want to Ambassador, I want to start off with some things that have been happening recently. But if you want to, I was going to say, before I get into the questions, I want to start off by asking you to see if you have anything you want to add in terms of introducing your delegation and any opening remarks.
Well, thank you so much for this invitation. I'm partial to the press. I spent quite a number of years in the city working as an opposition activist. And our natural allies in this were people like you. You are the great equalizer in the struggle to bring democracy to places where it doesn't exist much. But I'd like to single out a few people here, people who I've asked to come. I got a couple of staffers. I have a bit of sore throat, so I made sure to bring my DCM, my Deputy Chief of Mission. In case I go completely hoarse, he'll take over after me. It's Dr. Mohammed Qureshi. Please stand up. I got two other staffers who are wonderful here with me. Omar Hamadi, who does congressional relations for us, and Mohammed Shabout, who deals with the private sector. And we're eager to increase our interactions with the United States private sector because we believe we need them in order to rebuild Iraq in this coming phase of Reconstruction. Someone who's very, very dear to me, Dr. Akif Alusi, please stand up. We went to a Jesuit-founded high school in Baghdad. I came in late, so I didn't catch up on the Jesuits, but he was taught by them for about a year. And at our end of high school diploma, I think he got better grades than I did. And then two other people who are really dear and near to me, and they fulfilled the role I'm fulfilling right now. It's Rand Rahim, who was the first to represent a liberated Iraq. So, and then Ambassador Samir Someidai, who followed her. Oh. And he always makes noise. But he's a remarkable man. I met him when he was a member of the governing council, a very active member of the Iraqi opposition, and I'm glad that he's here. So
I guess we can get started. A little earlier this week, Monday, there was an announcement from the Iraqi government that's inviting oil firms to develop oil and natural gas reserves. How much of a level playing field is it going to be for U.S. firms? And conversely, how will the Iraqi government ensure that non-U.S. firms will have an equal chance to develop? Because this goes into rebuilding, in many respects, rebuilding your country.
Do you have an easier question? No. No, look.
A few.
No, thank you for coming to the core of this. Iraq is one of the last El Dorados in terms of oil. It's a reservoir of huge amounts of cheap oil to produce. Iraq is, in fact, the place where OPEC was founded in 1960. And I'm actually proud to say that my father was part of the Iraqi delegation at that conference that founded OPEC. But the reason Iraq was the host of the inaugural conference of OPEC was because it was the largest producer in the Middle East at the time. And it increased gradually until the Iran-Iraq War came, and then the invasion of Kuwait, and then the sanctions. And so as our production stagnated, as our infrastructure crumbled, our neighbors were building infrastructure, were growing their economies, and so we're really playing catch up. And the first phase of that went in 2009, when the first round of bid rounds were made public. And it was a very, very level playing field, extremely transparent. It was actually on television. And it was innovative in the sense that the Iraqi government managed to get oil companies to bid against each other. So they are operating in an area, in a regime, which is not very, very profitable for them. But that's expected from the Iraqi government because we are in the business of trying to increase returns to the Iraqi population. And of course, that was, everybody was kind of happy because at the time, the oil prices were pretty high. Now it's a little different. And we're trying to find new regimes, and in fact, the Iraqi Ministry of Oil has said that it's going to try to find new models to bring in as many bidders as possible. Truth is, there are still huge amounts of oil to be explored and produced in Iraq. And also, there are huge amounts of gas. Gas is an important addition that we need to work on. Unfortunately, because of the black box Iraq was in during the former regime's tenure, nothing was done up to modern standards, and so we continued to flare our gas. If we were to take all the gas that is flared currently in Iraq today and transformed it into electricity, which is what all our neighboring countries started doing in the 70s and the 80s, we'd produce, thousands, several tens, I don't know what the exact number is, but gigawatts of power, which would satisfy the need for electricity in Iraq. I can assure you that the process is going to be transparent. One of the problems we suffer from as Iraqis is, and we can talk about that if you want, I'm not shirking away from it, is corruption. But there is a marked decision by the Iraqi government to fight this, to eradicate that problem. The Prime Minister considers it a scourge equal in its negative effects to terrorism. So with this frame of mind, I really expect that the next coming bid rounds are going to be transparent and competitive, but as you would understand, geared towards the interest of the Iraqi people, informed, however, by our previous experiences where we've realized that you need to be a little more cooperative with the international oil companies and treat them more as partners than as competitors. So I'm pretty hopeful. And I can tell you that major American companies, as our international companies, are very, very interested in this. Exxon, Chevron, Total, BP.
Mm-hmm. So since you brought up corruption, how do you navigate that minefield in order to get to the picture that you just painted, in terms of how you have a solid, balanced, fair, and transparent picture?
Well, the process that you're referring to of granting contracts is somewhat limited and confined to a small number of decision makers. All you need to do is make sure that it is transparent, and what we can do is hire, which is what we did in 2009. We hired an internationally recognized company to do it and brought in television crews and made the thing broadcasted on television. That's one way, but the need to confront corruption is one of the things that I sense really that there is a real will to face it. And it's all the more important because we have less resources than we used to about a few years ago. Add to that the fact that we need all the resources we have, because even though I can say at the same time with great pride, but also with great sorrow, because it was something that was extremely costly in lives, we beat ISIS. We beat ISIS, but that's not enough. We must ensure that the conditions that led to the emergence of ISIS don't prevail anymore, which means that we have to launch our economy so that people get a sense of ownership of economic life, and we need to rebuild our infrastructure and provide services to the population so that precisely, like I said, the conditions that prevailed, that brought in, helped bring in ISIS, don't prevail anymore.
Since you brought up ISIS or ISIL, different people have different, obviously, terminology.
But they're the same bad guys.
Same bad guys.
Yeah.
Does the Iraqi government want the United States to back efforts to try ISIL members in an international tribunal for their atrocities committed during their control of the country and of also, by extension, Syrian communities? And does it support include, fiscal, legal, political efforts, or all of the above?
There has been a Security Council resolution geared towards that, citing in particular the example of what happened to Yazidi women who were enslaved in during the 21st century, geared towards trying to help, bring justice, but also a sense of closure to all those victims. It's not an easy task.
And when you're trying to bring folks to justice, and you talked about the Yazidis, you talked about other things like that, incidents, is the Iraqi legal system capable of trying ISIL members for their crimes? Are you, confident it's going to get the job done? Why or why not?
By and large, I think we are. Where we really need assistance is in all those technical skills that an advanced judicial police system requires. Forensics, DNA labs, how do you deal with the physical evidence, how you sort it out. These are skills that require a certain level of technical expertise that unfortunately we don't have much of. And so I mentioned the Security Council resolution earlier. There is mention of assistance to Iraq precisely in that field.
Have organizations, I know in this country you have the American Bar Association and you have like-minded organizations around the country. Have you sort of put up the bat signal, so to speak, to say, hey, come on in here and help us out?
And in fact, we've had volunteers come and talk to us. I'm pointing to my friend Mohammed Shabout, because he was posted previously at the United Nations and has followed some of these files himself. If you have anything to add, please feel free to comment. But there is interest, and man, it's a good cause. Why not?
Now, you mentioned the notion of beating ISIL, but there's still the sense that you have to finish evicting them out of the country from Iraqi territory. Are you able to do it alone?
We would not have been able to do it alone. I mean, the support of the coalition headed by the United States was actually critical and essential. We would not have been able to do it alone. I have to tell you, a few months ago I was involved in a conference which talked about Iraq after 10 years of war. And my first comment was actually, to many Iraqis, we didn't feel that we began fighting until 2014, because it was really, existential for us. Baghdad almost fell to and so the country is different from what it was in 2014. Our army is different from what it was in 2014. This has been a transformative experience. In many ways, in the way the Second World War was transformative to the United States. It's a new country. It's, there's a new spirit.
Talk a little bit about the Iraqi Kurds. What's the Iraqi government's plan to work out a solution for their national ambitions? I mean, how high, as you're working through this situation, how high is the risk of civil war?
Not high. I don't think that we've been there. People are tired of war, and now I think we've had a lot of experiences. We've learned a lot of lessons, and there are a lot of wise people in Iraq, in every single political party, in every sense. And now our program of work is practically determined. We have a constitution Some of the people who are here, actually, Samir participated in its drafting. Some of my colleagues have done that as well. It's not perfect, okay, but it has all that is needed for us to resolve our problems. You recall when this recent crisis emerged, of the referendum. After the referendum was carried out, Ayatollah Sistani, who many people agree is probably the most influential person in Iraq in terms of his moral authority, stated the way to go forward. He said that the Kurds should try to resolve their issues through the constitution. But he said that the Iraqi government should give our Kurdish population all their constitutional rights. And this constitution actually is a good document, and it's the appropriate document because it was approved by an overwhelming majority of Iraqis, almost 80%. In the KRG governorates, I think the rate of approval was in excess of 98%. So this is what we're trying to do through Parliament, through the various political means that we have at our disposal. One of the positive signs that I can mention to you is that many of the, actually most of the Kurdish members of Parliament, of the federal Iraqi Parliament, are now back in Baghdad and participating in session and discussions.
One more question, I'm going to throw it out to the audience. I think, is Laura back there? I'm going to bring the mic out because as soon as I throw this one out, we're going to start running. So get your questions ready because after I throw this one out, it's up to you to help carry the discussion. One thing that I reached out to some of my colleagues on my day job and one at Al Jazeera, and one thing they asked me to toss your way is that there have been some recent accusations of ethnic cleansing in Tuz Khurmatu. In fact, so some 30,000 people have been displaced. What's going on there, and how are you resolving that situation?
Well, what I can say is that there is nothing. Let me backtrack here.
Maybe we want to explain to folks what this is.
Tuz Khurmatu is a Turkmen town that is very mixed, and it was where the ideas for the surge emerged. The person who is in charge of Tuz Khurmatu is someone whose name you know. I think it's a colonel at the time, H.R. McMaster.
Certain national security advisor right about now.
So it's a difficult area because of its ethnic composition, because of its history. What I can tell you is that there has been nothing systematic or ordered about this. There have been some excesses, but I can assure you that the Iraqi government is serious about bringing any excesses to justice.
Okay.